Imagine a power within you so profound that it can transcend human understanding and connect you directly to a source of infinite wisdom and strength. Today, we'll explore how to unlock this extraordinary force, allowing it to pray through you and transform your life beyond natural limits. This is not about speaking on your own behalf. It's about becoming a channel for a supernatural presence that moves mountains and changes destinies. Are you ready to step into a new dimension of prayer? Unlocking the power of the Holy Spirit in prayer is not just an idea, it's a transformational experience. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to pray with a power that is beyond your own strength? To speak words that are not just your thoughts, but a divine expression flowing through you. This is the essence of supernatural prayer. When you learn to unlock this power, you step into a realm where prayer becomes more than a routine. It becomes a force that moves the unseen, shifts the impossible, and changes the course of your life. Think about the limitations you've faced in your prayer life. Maybe you've prayed and waited, only to feel like nothing has changed. Or perhaps your words seem powerless, lost in the air without any real impact. That's because prayer done in the natural realm only reaches so far. But when the Spirit prays through you, your prayers are infused with a power that breaks barriers and pierces through every obstacle. This power doesn't come from you, it comes from a divine presence inside you, waiting to be released. How do you unlock this power? It starts with surrender, letting go of your own control and allowing something greater to take the lead. This is not a passive act, but a deliberate invitation for the Spirit to guide your thoughts, your emotions, and your words. When you surrender, you open the door to supernatural alignment, where your prayers no longer come from your limited perspective, but from a source that knows the hidden truths and divine timing. Imagine praying not from your own understanding, but from the wisdom of the Spirit, speaking words that bring life, healing, and breakthrough. This is the power that transforms ordinary prayers into extraordinary encounters. But remember, unlocking this power is just the beginning. Once you experience this divine connection, the question becomes, how do you maintain it? How do you keep your prayers flowing in this supernatural dimension? This brings us to the next crucial step, learning to recognize and follow the Spirit's lead in every moment of your prayer life. Because true supernatural prayer is not about speaking more words, but about speaking the right words at the right time with the right heart. And that, my friends, is where the real transformation begins. The divine connection, letting the Spirit lead your words. Have you ever stopped to consider that your prayers might be limited by your own understanding? What if there is a greater intelligence, a higher wisdom that wants to speak through you, if only you would let it? When we talk about the Spirit leading your words, we are inviting a supernatural partnership, where your voice becomes the vessel for a power far beyond human ability. This isn't just about speaking louder or praying longer, it's about praying smarter, allowing something unseen, something divine to take the reins. Think about it. How often do we find ourselves wrestling with what to say, or praying the same things over and over again, hoping for different results? The truth is, without that divine connection, our prayers can become predictable, repetitive, and disconnected from the deeper realities at work. But when the Spirit leads your words, your prayer life transforms into a dynamic dialogue with the divine, a conversation that carries authority and impact. The Spirit brings clarity where there was confusion, power where there was weakness, and insight where there was uncertainty. This connection requires trust. It means learning to listen, to pause, and to wait for that inner guidance. You might find that your prayers start to shift not just in content, but in tone and intention. Words you didn't expect to say come forth naturally, carrying a force that touches the heart of your deepest needs and the needs of others. This is not about controlling prayer, but about releasing control and allowing the Spirit to shape your voice into an instrument of supernatural influence. Imagine the possibilities when your prayers are no longer just your own words, but are empowered expressions from a divine source. The questions now are, how do you cultivate this connection consistently? How do you train yourself to recognize the Spirit's lead, especially in moments of doubt or distraction? The answers lie in the next phase, learning to pray in alignment with the Spirit's will, because without alignment, even the most powerful connection can lose its direction. And that, my friends, is where the journey to supernatural prayer truly deepens. Beyond human limits, experiencing supernatural prayer. Have you ever felt the frustration of hitting a ceiling in your prayer life? Like no matter how much effort you put in, the breakthrough seems just out of reach. What if I told you there is a way to move beyond those natural limits, to step into a realm where prayer is not confined by human weakness, but powered by a force so extraordinary it defies logic and changes outcomes instantly? This is the realm of supernatural prayer, a dimension where the ordinary rules no longer apply. Supernatural prayer is not about trying harder, it's about tapping into a power that already exists within you, waiting to be unleashed. It's about breaking free from the chains of limited understanding, limited emotions, and limited energy, and entering into a flow where your prayers carry the weight and authority of the divine. When you experience this, you will notice that what once seemed impossible becomes possible. Walls crumble, chains break, healing flows, doors open that were once firmly shut. But how do you access this power? It begins with recognizing that prayer is more than a monologue, it's a spiritual encounter. It's not just what you say, it's who prays through you. When the Spirit takes over, your prayers become spontaneous, powerful, and perfectly timed. You might find yourself praying words that you didn't plan, but that hit exactly the right mark. This is the supernatural element, moving beyond your human limitations to be used as a vessel for something infinitely greater. Imagine praying with confidence, knowing that your prayers have the power to shift reality, to bring answers from beyond what the eye can see. But here's the catch. Supernatural prayer is not automatic. It requires preparation, sensitivity, and a willingness to surrender your own agenda. It's a process of learning to listen, to wait, and to follow the guidance that comes in the moment. Are you ready to stop praying by routine and start praying with power? And once you break through these natural limits, the next challenge is learning to pray in alignment with the Spirit's will, because power without alignment can lead to chaos. The next step then is to discover how to align your prayers with that perfect divine timing, praying in alignment with the Spirit's will. This is where many stumble. We want answers, we want breakthroughs, we want our prayers to be heard and acted upon. But here's the crucial question: are our prayers aligned with the greater will that governs all things? Praying without alignment is like trying to navigate a ship without a compass. No matter how hard you row, you may drift further away from your destination. Alignment brings direction, power, and purpose to your prayers. Imagine this: you have the power to pray, but without knowing the right path, your prayers might not lead to the breakthrough you desire. The Spirit's will is like a roadmap. When you pray in harmony with it, your prayers become unstoppable. But when you resist or impose your own agenda, you may find your efforts frustrated, your prayers unanswered. This is not about limiting your requests, but about expanding your understanding of what is truly best, what fits into a greater plan, far beyond your own vision. How do you achieve this alignment? It begins with a heart posture of humility and openness. You stop demanding answers and instead you start listening. Listening deeply, waiting patiently, and trusting that the timing and the content of your prayers will be perfect when they are aligned with the Spirit's will. This requires sensitivity, learning to discern the subtle nudges, the quiet promptings, the inner peace or unrest that guides you. When your prayers are aligned, you will find they carry an extraordinary authority. They don't just sound good, they bring results. They don't just express desires, they activate purpose. The power of alignment transforms prayer from a hopeful wish into a supernatural force that moves mountains. But here is the challenge many face. How do you maintain this alignment consistently? How do you keep your prayers flowing in harmony with that divine will, especially when distractions, doubts, and pressures come knocking? This is where the next principle comes in, cultivating intimacy with the Spirit so that this connection, this alignment becomes your natural state, not a fleeting experience. And so we move forward to discover how to deepen that intimacy and keep your prayer life vibrant, powerful, and alive. Cultivating intimacy with the Spirit for effective prayer. This is where the transformation happens. Have you noticed that the most powerful conversations in your life happen when there's a deep connection between those involved? When two people truly know and understand each other, their communication flows effortlessly. The same principle applies when you engage in supernatural prayer. It's not just about speaking words into the air, it's about developing a relationship, a closeness, with the Spirit that enables you to pray with clarity, power, and precision. Intimacy is not automatic, it takes time, commitment, and intentionality. It's about creating space, moments where distractions fade, and you focus solely on this connection. Think about the ways you build intimacy in your closest relationships. You invest time, you listen deeply, and you respond thoughtfully. The same investment is needed in your prayer life. When you cultivate intimacy with the Spirit, you become sensitive to the subtle promptings, the quiet whispers of guidance that might otherwise go unnoticed. This intimacy brings a new level of confidence to your prayers. You no longer have to guess what to say or how to pray. Instead, your prayers flow naturally, as if carried by a current you can't see but can feel. This connection allows you to move beyond mechanical repetition into a living, breathing dialogue that is powerful and transformative. But here's the key: intimacy is a two-way street. It's not just about talking, it's about listening. It's about being still enough to hear the Spirit's voice and humble enough to follow that guidance. When you cultivate this relationship, prayer becomes less about your effort and more about surrendering to a higher power that knows exactly what needs to be said and when. Now, as you begin to experience this depth of intimacy, you might wonder, how do you sustain this connection in the chaos of everyday life? How do you keep this flow alive when distractions, doubts, and demands try to pull you away? That's exactly where the next step takes us, transforming your prayer life through spiritual guidance. So this intimacy isn't a moment but a lifestyle. Transforming your prayer life through spiritual guidance, this is where everything changes. Have you ever felt stuck in your prayers, as if you're just repeating the same words, the same requests, hoping for different results? That feeling of stagnation comes from missing a vital element, true spiritual guidance. It's like trying to navigate a vast ocean without a compass or a map. You can paddle and paddle, but without guidance, you risk going in circles. Spiritual guidance is that inner navigation system, an invisible force that leads you beyond what your mind can grasp. When you allow this guidance to shape your prayers, your entire prayer life is transformed. You stop praying from a place of uncertainty and start praying with confidence and authority. Your prayers become sharp arrows aimed precisely at the heart of the matter. They carry clarity, power, and divine timing. But how do you tap into this guidance? It begins with a deliberate shift, a willingness to let go of your own agenda and to seek direction beyond your natural understanding. This requires humility, patience, and a constant tuning into that subtle voice within. You learn to pause, to listen, to adjust your words and your heart according to the promptings you receive. The transformation is remarkable. Your prayers move from being a monologue to becoming a conversation, a dynamic, two-way interaction that keeps evolving. You don't just speak, you respond. You don't just ask, you receive insight. This interplay creates a rhythm, a flow that makes your prayers alive and effective. Imagine the difference it makes when your prayer life is no longer a solitary effort, but a partnership with a higher intelligence. You will notice breakthroughs where before there was delay, doors open where there were walls, answers come when you least expect them, but most need them. But once you start experiencing this transformation, the next question becomes, how do you maintain this dynamic partnership consistently? How do you become not just a momentary vessel of power, but a steady conduit of supernatural prayer? That leads us to the next essential step, the dynamics of Spirit-led communication with the divine. The dynamics of Spirit-led communication with the divine. Have you ever considered that prayer is not just about speaking, but about an active two-way exchange? It's more than sending out words into the air. It's about entering into a living conversation where the Spirit leads, guides, and even corrects your course. This dynamic communication is the heartbeat of supernatural prayer. Without it, prayers can become one-sided, routine, and powerless. But when you embrace this flow, your prayer life is transformed into a powerful dialogue that shapes reality. Think about how communication works in your closest relationship. It's never just one person talking. There's listening, responding, adjusting, and sometimes waiting for the right moment to speak again. The same principles apply when the Spirit leads your prayer. You learn to recognize the subtle cues, the nudges, the impressions, the peace or unrest that direct your words and timing. It's a living interaction that requires attentiveness and sensitivity. This dynamic shifts prayer from being a static exercise into a vibrant experience. You no longer pray from your own limited perspective, but from a place of divine insight. Your words become aligned with a higher purpose, and your prayers carry authority that moves mountains. But here's the secret. This communication is not always loud or dramatic. Often it's quiet, gentle, and requires patience to hear clearly. You must be willing to slow down, to create space, and to listen deeply. Have you noticed how easy it is to get distracted, to rush, or to pray out of habit? These are the enemies of dynamic communication. To stay connected, you must cultivate stillness and focus, so that the Spirit's voice rises above the noise. This is where discipline meets devotion, a commitment to engage in prayer, not as a task, but as an ongoing dialogue. Imagine the power you hold when your prayers are led by this dynamic communication, prayers that are timely, precise, and impactful. But once you grasp this, the next challenge arises. How do you become a vessel that consistently allows the Spirit to pray through you? How do you maintain that flow in the midst of life's demands and distractions? That, my friends, is the final and most profound step, becoming a vessel, letting the Spirit pray through you. Becoming a vessel, letting the Spirit pray through you, is the ultimate expression of supernatural prayer. Have you ever asked yourself, what does it truly mean to be a vessel? It means surrendering completely, releasing control, and allowing a greater force to flow through your life. It's not about your strength, your words, or your wisdom. It's about being a channel, a conduit, through which the Spirit moves freely and powerfully. When you become this vessel, your prayers no longer come from you alone, they come from the very source of divine power. This surrender is not weakness, it is the greatest act of strength and courage. It requires humility to step aside and trust that the Spirit knows exactly what needs to be prayed. Imagine the freedom that comes when you stop trying to figure it all out, and instead allow something beyond your comprehension to guide your prayers. This is where true power is released, when your voice becomes an instrument for a supernatural force that brings transformation, healing, and breakthrough. But becoming this vessel demands constant readiness. It means living a life open to guidance, sensitive to promptings, and disciplined in prayer. It means saying yes daily to a connection that shapes your words, your heart, and your action. It requires patience when answers don't come immediately, faith when the path isn't clear, and perseverance when obstacles arise. When you live as a vessel, you enter a new realm of prayer, one that transcends routine, breaks limitations, and aligns perfectly with the divine. Your prayer life becomes a powerful exchange, a force that moves beyond what you can see or understand, changing lives, circumstances, and destinies. So as you step into this reality, ask yourself, are you ready to become a vessel, to let go of control and allow the Spirit to pray through you? Because when you do, you are no longer just praying, you are partnering with a power that can change everything. Now take this moment, embrace the surrender, and watch as your prayer life transforms into something truly supernatural. The journey has just begun. The power is within you. The time is now.